Alright, welcome to another Element Fission video, and today I want to go through the developer's notes that I've just dropped in game and see what it's all about. So, a notice has just popped up while I was playing the game, telling me to look at the inbox. So if we go and have a look and see what these developer's notes are talking about. Hello everyone, we're here to give an early preview of some changes planned for the upcoming version. Developer's Note 1.9.2 Ruins Dungeon. The exploration team sent to explore the area surrounding the crazy dungeon has finally returned. They discovered a city completely buried, sealed away for countless years. It's not an ancient tomb or prehistoric ruins. Its lines, layout, material bare and imprint of a civilization. Fair enough. Claim that some mutated rats are still active in the ruined city. Our exploration team first reported two important sites. So the sewer Atelier and Derelict Reactor. Alright, so the sewer is a water boss by the looks of it. A mutated rat that escaped from a laboratory has established its own workshop in the city sewers. It calls itself Professor Splinton, we're not in the Turtles, are we? And conducts hazardous chemical research there. The professor fights using a massive potion tank strapped to its back, while its two assailants continuously inject acidic and alkaline solutions into the tank during battle. As the potion's pH level shifts, the flow of battle changes dynamically. I wonder what that's all about. So as the fight goes on, there's going to be two minions injecting stuff into his tank, and then something's going to change during the battle. We're interested to know what that's going to do. Is it something that we're going to have to kill the minions early on to stop them from injecting the acidic or alkaline, or maybe something we can do ourselves, so we can maybe kill one of them so the pH level shifts towards alkaline or towards acidic, and then it might be interesting dynamics there if we can do something there. Obviously eventually you'd probably just end up nuking it down, but could be an interesting strategy at the start. The next one is Derelict Reactor. The fire boss. A pack of mutation rats with a knack for engineering has taken over the abandoned reactor. They have designed a tunnel boring machine and christened it the lava crawler. Right, so when intruders detected, it crawls towards an enemy. Once it's close enough, delivers a lethal strike with its devastating drill. However, designed to operate in extreme heat, no resistance to freezing, to exploit the freeze to temporarily hold its legs. So that looks like it's something where it's going to come closer to you and you've got to kill it before it gets to you. So either kill it fast or freeze it to slow it down to give yourself more time to kill it. Interesting. So there's only two, water and fire, so I wonder if that means there's going to be more bosses coming, because so far what I've seen is there's normally water, fire, tree, light and dark bosses for everything. This could be the first 2 of 5, or they could just leave it at 2. So what is this relic? So rare artifacts left behind by the once flourishing human civilization. They harbor mysterious powers that can greatly enhance the combat capabilities of the holders. Right, so we can obtain these relics in them 2 dungeons, right? Relics are divided into 2 types based on the equipment slot. So we have elemental relics and we have specialization relics. The elemental relics are classified by the standard attributes. A relic can only be equipped if it matches the attribute. And we have specialization relics, combat ones, and that's the different roles. So that's the initiator, nuker, disabler, disruptor, support, tank and core. So relic can only be equipped if you're matching one of either the attribute or the combat role. Right. Each relic has a primary stat, so it's either hit point, attack or defense. That looks like it's a flat hit point, a flat attack, flat defense, rather than a percentage. Secondary stats and relics are known as affixes. Split into two tiers, you get your prefixes and your suffixes, and both offer diverse combat boosting effects. Prefixes are higher value, more superior compared to the suffixes, and you can't have the same prefix or the same suffix on a relic. Right? We've got the standard quality for them. So we have common, which just has your flat stat. Uncommon has one prefix. A rare has a prefix and a suffix. Your expert has two prefixes and a suffix. Your legendary has two prefixes and two suffixes. And you have your brilliant, which is two prefixes and three suffixes. So you can see that that's quite a lot of stats you can get. If you're getting these legendaries and brilliants, that's quite a lot of extra stats. So if you're struggling with content, it's quite good. If you need that extra bit of hit points or extra bit of damage or a bit more speed, what have you. We go for PvP as well. Unique relic. So when a relic with brilliant quality drops, there's a rare chance to discover a unique relic. Sounds good. Unlike ordinary relics, unique relics have left their names inscribed in the annals of human history. One-of-a-kind existences. So the secondary stats of these unique relics don't follow the random rules, so it must be that they're set on it. Instead, the affixes appear to be relatively fixed pattern. It's relatively fixed, so it might change a little bit. And they often possess special passive effects. So there's going to be about 80 unique relics, which is quite a decent number. This could allow for quite a bit of customization with 80 different relics. So they're going to show a few of them here. So we have Bone Ash Hourglass, hit points on its main stat, a couple of affixes, damage reduced, defense goes up when your hit points go down below half, and then this is the passive. Deals additional true damage equal to 14 times the number of turns I've passed in this battle, capped at 100 turns. So that's what's that, 1400 true damage. I don't know if that's a lot. And I don't know how many fights are going to get to 100 turns. PvP won't, and PvE, what I've seen so far, doesn't seem to get to 100 turns, but I haven't done all the content yet. Now what of Sparta, some flat defense, 43% enhanced stat. So I wonder if that one could be random stat. It said relatively fixed, so this could be like a random one, so it could be like 43% attack, 43% defense or hit points. And then a passive, increased damage dealt by normal attack by 15%. However, the effect rate of normal attack is reduced by 20%. So the effect rate will be things like putting a defense down on, attack down, I'm guessing. So if it's just a damage dealing stat, you're going to get 15% extra damage, but there's less chance of putting out an effect. So you're sacrificing kind of like a bit of accuracy for more damage, which is fine if it's equip limiter and nuke Element. So you do want more damage. Tengu's Rain Cape. So skill 1 more accuracy, skill 2 more accuracy. That's good when you've got a unit that has a debuff on both the skill 1 and skill 2. You want more accuracy there. Although you can normally build enough accuracy to land most of your debuffs. I don't know whether you'd actually need it. I suppose you could then put stats in elsewhere, lower the accuracy on your gear to increase something else. The passive, after using a non-attack skill, gain 1 turn of stealth. Can only trigger once per battle. And that's like a disruptor element. So yeah, it's not too bad. It keeps them alive a bit longer. Helps get your debuffs out. Kusanagi. So crit damage as less target hit point, max 7%. Doesn't sound like it's a complete sentence. So that means crit damage increases as your target hit points go down, up to a maximum of 7%. That's what I'm guessing what it is. Doesn't quite read right though. And then self-turn, single attack, crit damage plus 8, which that's quite a good extra crit damage one. And then Godslayer passive, When fighting in a boss stage, damage dealt is increased by 5%, damage received reduced by 5%. So that looks like a good standard PvE relic. Now put this on one of your damage dealers and it's going to generally do more damage as the battle goes on. Sergeant's Trident. So true damage by 61% of speed. Could be decent on one of your speed attackers, especially one of the ones where you've got something that does damage based on speed. You can have a lot of speed anyhow. Skill 1, true damage by 3% of attack. Yeah, if it's an attacking one, not speed, yeah. And then deal 75 true damage. Now, is that just a standard on every skill, these first two? Interesting. Initiator element, which I'm not too versed up on what all the initiator elements are. I know they're the ones that you do your attack bar boost, your speed boost, stuff like that. So they're the ones that generally go first in the battle. But I don't know if you generally build them for damage. Obviously, extra damage is always going to be good, but you would want this true damage. Maybe on initiate actually, because true damage isn't going to be based on attack and crit damage and stuff like that. So yeah, on the initiate at the moment you're building for speed and you're building to stay alive, doing some true damage based on some of your stats. It could be quite interesting. Molnir, true damage by 8% of attack, and then when successfully applying stun, release a bolt of lightning at the target, dealing 1600 damage. And that's to disable it at the moment. So yeah, disable the ones that are going to have stuns within their kit. I wonder if that also applies if you're using the gear. Is it bash where the gear has a chance to apply a stun? That could be quite interesting if you've got that on there as well to do extra damage. Earrings of Meditation. Minus 11% to resistance. Is that a good thing? Having less resistance? And you get a passive. If you end a turn while under inability, 40% chance to reduce the cooldown of a random skill currently on cooldown by 1 turn. So you're lowering your resistance, so you've got more chance of getting an inability. And then if you end your turn under that inability, you've got a chance to reduce the cooldown of a random skill. Yeah, I don't really know whether that's a good one or not. Maybe later game, I can't see why you'd want to be stunned, for example. And get your cooldown of a random skill down. Somebody with more knowledge than me might understand it better. Extra turn relic. So among all the unique relics in state, there's one special relic with the following attributes. So your skill 1 does true damage by 8% of defense, and then after attacking on your turn, you've got a 15% chance to gain an extra turn. When the extra turn ends, you fall into a sleep. So this is the first time outside the Lunar New Year event battles, which I've never experienced, that we've added a turn gain effect to the equipable items. This relic grants wearer the ability to gain an extra turn but with strict limits. There's going to be a core type element, so that limits on who can use it. You must have attacked during its turn to ensure the extra turn isn't triggered while the element is under stun or sleep. Right, so then it wouldn't matter. Sleep for 1 turn after it's triggered ensures that benefit is controllable, so you're kind of using your next turn. You can avoid that by either making the AI attack you by having an elemental disadvantage, so you can make sure that the AI focuses on you to wake you up, or immunity effects, that'll be your immunity buff. So you possibly could have kind of support element with you to put immunity on, and then you won't get that sleep. But yeah, more strategic deaths, so you have to plan ahead for stuff like that. Pick the right team if you want an elemental disadvantage to wake you up, or the right support units. So they want to be cautious in adding these turn gain effects to the game. Among the 80 unique relics that they're introducing, this is the only one that provides extra turn. We are not opponent of incorporating gain extra turn effects. A well-timed extra turn can often shoot the battle at time, especially in PvP. Well, that's the appeal of this genre. I believe it's a powerful effect. They want a careful balancing, which is fair enough. I know in a similar game, Summoner's War, when I used to play it years and years ago, the is it Violent Runes I had in that game? But extra turn, and it just, yeah, in PvP, it's turn after turn after turn, and you could be dead just because of the runes basically giving you extra turns. So yeah, it's got to be balanced properly, and the relics impose restrictions on the combat roll. We clearly identify which elements will equip such relic. So 80 unique relics overall, and then there is all these random ones that's going to drop with various different prefixes and suffixes. That's quite a lot of customization. We've got some FAQs here. But do relics have star ratings? Can they be powered up like gears? The answer is no to both. So relics differ in quality, which determines the number of secondary affixes they possess, and they cannot be powered up. Right, so when it drops with whatever stats it's got, and that can't be changed. You don't have to power it up, which is a good thing, because that normally if you have to power it up, it would be gold, or games will introduce some new kind of currency, which is then a pain to get. So I like that. I like that you don't have to power them up. Just if it drops and it's good, then you can just use it straight away. How many relics can each element equip at most? You can have 2. You can have 1 elemental and 1 specialization. So that's 1 based on your element. So your fire, your tree, your water, your dark, your light, and then 1 in your specialization. So depending on whether you're nuke or core or whatever. Yeah. Fair enough. That's quite a lot more stats if you've got 2 of them. Why do some relics have a square border while others have a hexagonal one? So relics with a square border are the elemental ones, and the hexagonal ones are the specialization relics. Or it just makes it easy to see the difference there. The 2 dungeons have been introduced in this update. How are relics obtained from them? So in the rune dungeon, right, so the sewer drops elemental ones, and the derelict drops the specialization ones. So you've got to farm them both for the different types of relics, which might indicate that they're not planning on doing new ones for the other elements. They might just be sticking with the 2. At least that's what it looks like. Why are all the relics with passive skill shown as hexagonal icons? So your hexagonal ones are your specialization relics, which is determined by the wielder's combat roll. So as such, the vast majority of passive skills are found on those, where the elemental ones only feature basic fixes. That's probably so that I can balance the passive skills around specialization rather than the element, which makes sense. You can put your damage dealing passives on a relic that only damage dealers can use, and it's not going to be wasted on something that's like for your support, because you wouldn't really want a damage dealing passive on a support. Yeah, makes sense. Can the passive effects granted by unique relics be oblivioned? No, that's good. Also something especially in PvP, you might have to kind of learn what all these different passives are, because there could be some that are really overpowered for PvP, and knowing that you can't oblivion them, it just adds to the strategy. Are secondary affixes shown in the relic preview fixed, or do they vary? Right, so they did say before that some of them had relatively fixed the uniques, but I think on the other ones they don't. So let's see. They vary. All attribute values shown in the previews are randomized. For example, the main stat, such as attack, may roll between 80 and 120. So if you roll attack, you're then looking for a high roll rather than a lower one. A secondary affix that grants bonus to 2 damage may range between 15 and 40%, which is quite a big difference. Damage bonus reduction granted by Godslay passive on Kusanagi may roll between 2 and 6%. So what's the Kusanagi one? Passive, which is 5% there. Oh yeah, so it's between 2 and 6%. So a lot of RNG there, because you're going to want the correct stat for whichever unit you're going to be using on. Then you want that to roll high, and then you want your secondary affixes to roll high, and possibly your passives to roll high. So it's not a case of if you get one, that's it, that's good for everybody. you want to keep trying to get them for the higher rolls. Can multiple affixes with the same beneficial stat appear on a single relic and stack to make a perfect piece? So, for example, a legendary quality relic has 2 prefixes, 2 suffixes. Prefixes cannot roll duplicate stats, so 2 prefixes cannot stack. The same applies to suffixes. However, you can have them stack on each one, so you could have a prefix and a suffix that has the same stat. So if you have a look at some of these stats up here, you could have crit damage on first hit as a prefix. I wonder if you could then have that as a suffix, and then you're getting double that crit damage on the first hit, which will be really good for going first in PvP. And your damage dealers, if you can double that up, that's quite interesting. True damage could be quite good if you can double them up. Enhancing your stats could be quite good. There we are, so there's a suffix there, so you've got crit damage on first hit 4% in your suffix, and then up here you've got crit damage on first hit 8%. So if you got them on, say, it could be a rare with 1 prefix and 1 suffix, and technically you could get 8 plus your 4, so you're getting 12% extra damage on your first hit, which is quite good. When will the update take place? So the update is expected to arrive later this month, so there's still a couple of weeks left of the month. We'll announce the exact date when we release the detailed patch notes. Thank you for your patience. Interesting. Now I know this game has kind of like been copied a bit from Summoner's War. Last time I played Summoner's War, they didn't have relics in, so I don't know if this is something that's in that game and they've copied, or it's something new. I do know Raid Shadow Legends has relics in it. Not quite the same as these, but they do add quite a lot of stats and different kind of like abilities to the game, and makes you build interesting, more customization. However, some can be quite overpowered. So looking at this, I don't know if the standard ones will be overpowered. The standard ones look fine. It's just going to be a case of farming the dungeons and hoping the RNG goes in your favour. You get some good prefixes, you get some good suffixes, and it's just going to give you overall better stats, clearing content, especially in PvE. It's going to be very useful for all your elements. PvP, again, you know, it's going to be useful. Whether it's going to be as useful, I'm not too sure. So I suppose in PvP, you probably need to be more specific on what you're actually going to get. But these unique relics, now they said that there's 80 unique relics. We've only seen a couple of them here. Now, these could be game changing. Depending on what these passives are, they could make one of your elements totally overpowered. And it could make a big difference when it comes to PvP if you've got a really overpowered passive. That's what I'd be concerned about. That in some of these games, you do find that, you know, they want people to farm them, they want people to buy them, they want people to spend money to get them if they can. They do kind of sometimes make them overpowered. So I would be a bit concerned that some of these uniques might be too unique and too good not to get. So we'll have to watch out for that, see what comes out in the patch notes, see what they're going to release. But I do like adding the relic because it gives something more to your gear. It gives you more customization. You can add more to your skills, more to your stats. So like this one is Poseidon's Trident, 2 damage by 61% of speed. So you can change your build up. If you get this, you can change your build up of Initiate Element. You know, make sure you've got the extra speed in there. Although they are always going to be fast, but you know, you can do stuff like that. So yes, that's it. That's the developers notes. It all looks quite interesting. New content's always good in these types of games, especially when if you've been playing them for a long time, it can get a bit stale in the end game when you're just farming the same things over and over again. So new dungeons is always a good thing in my view. New content, new gear types is good. I do like that it's not just an extra like gear type, it's extra like stat overall stat boost, so it's in addition to your gear, which is good. It's not an and an or. It's you're gonna want to farm these. You're gonna want to farm the best ones, and you're gonna want to farm for the best rolls in the stats as well. Make a big difference, especially if it comes to say, PvP, and if they bring in the real-time arena, which I've read is supposed to be coming at some point. Then yeah, you want to be farming these ready for that. It could be provide big power boosts, both PvE and PvP. So I'll look forward to that coming into the game, and I will drop a video when the dev notes come out, which go over the update, and we might have more information of when that's going to be, and maybe some more information on what all the different the unique relics are, which would be quite good. So if you want to see more Element Fission content, like the video, subscribe to my channel, check out my newbie playthrough series that I'm doing. I am new to the game. I've only played for about a month, so I am enjoying it so far, and yeah, I'm doing a newbie playthrough. So check that out, and I'll be back with some more content soon. So thank you and goodbye.